Ladies and gentlemen, boys and... welcome to episode 69 of the of the Spearhead Sundays podcast. That was incredibly underwhelming. I told you it'd be the funniest episode, and already we're off to a shit start. I want to apologize in advance if this podcast sounds different or sounds bad. I'm using my desktop computer because I left my fucking laptop somewhere else and I need to go pick it up. But for now, I'm using my desktop computer, which I endeavored for the longest time not to have any kind of work programs on here. This is supposed to be my fucking gaming computer where the only program on it was fucking video games, right? It was just Steam, and I would download video games and I'd play them, and this would be my day off computer, right? When I don't have to fucking worry about shit, because whenever I go on my laptop and I try to do some shit that isn't work, I always feel like I should be doing work because notifications come through. Oh, you just got an email from some fuckhead in a suit. He wants to talk about brand deals. And I'm like, I should probably fucking reply to this email, see if it's a good deal. Or, I don't know, you know what I'm talking about. It's the kind of shit, or even on my phone. Because my problem is, my whole work and everything that I do is fucking social media and online shit. So I can't even go on Facebook and watch some dumb videos without being reminded of a fucking notification of someone inboxing me, asking me a question. Hey! Do you ship to America? Yes, cunt. It ships to anywhere, alright? Just go on my website. I swear, 90% of the questions that I answer are the dumbest fucking shit that you can Google. I reckon some people just want to ask me the question. They know they could Google it. They just want to hear the answer from me. And it's like, yeah, cool. Don't do that. That's such a waste of my time. It's like, oh, I could ask Google and find out right now, or maybe I could ask Kanye West to his face. Hey, Kanye, how much is your album? It's like, shut up, cunt. I'm trying to make some ugly shoes. Can you just leave me alone? Alright? I'm Kanye West. I'm very busy. I'm trying to make ugly clothes that cost $100 and, you know, stop all of my wife's sisters from cheating on their boyfriends. I'm a very busy man. Google it. So yeah, I'm on this computer and I've given in. It now has work programs on it. I'm using Audacity because normally I use GarageBand to record this podcast, but today I'm using fucking Audacity, and holy shit, I have no idea how it works. I can already see that this shit is a lot better than GarageBand, or I don't even know if it's better than GarageBand, but I do know it's a lot uglier, and that generally means that it is a lot better, because with programs, you know that if they've spent 100% of the time on function instead of form, you know it's fucking good, because this is the ugliest program I've ever seen in my life, but it seems to work well. But I'm just dreading that I'm going to get to the end of this hour and there'll be this fucking terrible ringing noise, or the whole thing will be distorted and I'll just have to throw it into the bin. So, I don't know. This could be... I'm just not going to worry about that. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm fucking stressing about it. I am shitty with the government, guys. I'm had it. It's time for a revolution. You know, I reckon these Antifa people, I thought they were retards, but I reckon they got something going for it. We need to burn the government down, because I have been affected for the first time in my life by a government decision. The first time ever, right? Every time the government makes a decision, I'm like, oh yeah, good on you. And then I just live my life normally. You ever think about that? You ever think about how little the government actually affects your life? Like, all these people are... I mean, I'm talking about if you live in the first world, you know, places like Australia, America. I'm not talking about places where the government are people where they'll be like, hey, if you insult my haircut, I'll chop your dick off and fuck your wife. Not that kind of place. I'm talking about first world, you know, white countries. Is what I'm talking about. Have you ever thought about how little the government actually affects your life every time they make a decision? Like, in general, yeah, the system that has been built by people who came before us, you know, I'm not really talking about that. That's obviously great, but it's hard to fuck that up. I'm talking about every time the government announces a new budget, or they announce a new law, or a new rule, or a new funding, and you just listen to it and you go, oh, I should care about that. But then when it comes down to it, whether they do the thing that you don't agree with or they do the thing you do agree with, end of the day, you still wake up in the morning and nothing fucking happens, right? It's the same life that you have. But today, that's changed. It's all changed, guys, because I've been affected by the government personally, right? And it's a small thing. Actually, it's not a small thing. It's ruined my life, right? So where I live, there's a big intersection that I have to cross. It's not an intersection. It's like a big, busy road, right? It's 2 one-way roads. One going one way and the other going one way but the other way. And it used to be, right, there's lights. There's traffic lights where it's basically you're crossing like 6 lines of traffic when it's not that busy, but the traffic lights go across 6 lanes. So you cross 3 lanes, and then there's a little island, and you cross the rest of the lanes. Now, how it used to be is the traffic lights, you would press them, and they would both go green at once. So you had enough time to cross 6 lanes of traffic. You didn't have to stop in the middle, and it was great. Both one-way roads had to stop, and then everyone waiting would cross, and then we'd all get on with our day. Now, they've changed it. All right, I don't know why the fuck they changed it, but they've disconnected the 2 sides of the lights. So now, every time I want to cross the road, which happens to me every fucking day, I gotta cross this road. Now, I have to press 2 different buttons. So I'll press 1 button, and then I gotta wait, and I can cross to the island. And then I gotta press the button on the island and cross the other 3. And that has fucking ruined my life because it takes twice as long to cross the road. And I realize that we are in peak first world problems, right? I realize that there are people in Africa getting their clits chopped off by African warlords, and there's people in Saudi Arabia who aren't allowed to drive because they were born with the wrong fucking chromosome. But I don't live there, so I don't care about that. I care about the extra 10 seconds. Actually, it's not even 10 seconds. It's 25, I reckon, at least, extra seconds that it takes me to cross the road. And it's ruined my life, right? Now I gotta wait in the island. And it's been like that for the last month. And every time I cross the road, I see somebody almost die. Because when they changed these traffic lights, they didn't fucking tell anybody. And these traffic lights have been stopping both sides of traffic for my whole life, 23 years, and none of the locals here are used to this change, how they've now split them. Because the fucking problem is, right, when one of them goes off, you can hear it from the other side of the road, even though it's not your traffic light. And people are so used to them stopping both sides of traffic that whenever they hear the green fucking sound go off, whenever they hear the crossing walk signal, I see so many people start to cross the road and then stop because they realize their side hasn't gone off. And it's like a 60-kilometer road. I've seen that many near fucking hits. Someone's gonna die. I used to think only dogs do that. You know when you're waiting with your dog at the traffic light and it doesn't understand that it needs to wait for a green sign? All it really understands is that there's a noise, like beep, 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 you know that? So they hear the noise and they start to cross, even though it might not be your traffic light. I see humans do that shit. I thought only dogs did it. Because I always check to see that cars have actually stopped. Because just because the man is green and the fucking lights are red doesn't mean there isn't some retard on their phone checking their Instagram stories about to fucking split you in half on the road, right? So I always look before I cross. But no one else does that. I've realized now that I can see people begin to cross. And the other fucking thing is, one of the lights doesn't work. So you have to guess anyway, right? For the last month, when they decided to change how the traffic lights operated, the green man on one side doesn't work anymore. So even if the sound goes off, the light doesn't go off. So it could be red, it could be green. The point is you're hearing the noise, but you have to fucking gamble on whether or not the cars are going to stop and it's actually your red light and it's safe to cross. Someone's going to die. And you know what? It's the first time I've ever been affected by a government decision, and I'm actually thinking about complaining to the council. Because I swear someone's going to die. I've seen that many people almost cross the road. Oh, fucking 2 days ago, I saw a mother with a pram cross the wrong fucking traffic light because she thought she had the green. because she heard the noise. And I almost saw like 10 people die. It was awesome. A car to slam on their brakes. Fucking the baby started screaming. The mother freaked out. She probably felt like a horrible mum all the way home and then decided not to tell her husband because he would have yelled at her, justifiably so. Why didn't you fucking look? I don't know. I wasn't thinking. It's not my fault. What do you mean it's not your fault? Of course it's your fault. You didn't look and you almost got hit by a car. Tell me how that's not your fault. You're always so mean to me. Why can't you just hug me when I'm upset? I can't hug a fucking idiot. I want a divorce, right? That's what probably happened. So these traffic lights not only are endangering lives, they're also causing divorces at a very high rate. And I'm considering complaining. But the only reason I haven't complained is because I think that the moment I begin that behavior, right, I won't be able to stop. Because, you know, the moment I ring the council and I go, hello, I have a problem with the decision that you've made, my life is over. I just become that guy. The guy that fucking rings the council because his neighbours have overfilled their bins. That'll be me. I'll be the guy who rings the council because the neighbours' fucking plants are overgrown. I'll be the guy who rings the council because Asians have moved into the neighbourhood. Like, that's the kind of person I'm going to be if I call the council. And I'm really terrified of that happening. It can't happen to me. But, on the other hand, if I don't complain to the council, I'm going to have to be... Like, it ruins my morning every morning because I get up in the morning and I forget that they've changed it. And then I almost kill myself every fucking morning and all I want is a croissant. And I gotta risk my life. That's what it's like. That's what my life is like now. It's ruined my life, guys. So let me know what you guys think. I'm only 23, right? Complaining to the council is something that only 80-year-old men and women do. So I'm gonna leave this up to you. If you think I should complain to the council, let me know, right? Give me a yes or no answer on this. Let me know if I should complain to the council. And if the answer is yes, I'll go all in, right? I'll go all fucking in and all of us will be committed to changing the traffic lights to how they used to be. Alright, so let me know if you want me to complain to the council. Tell me to do it and I will. But if you think that I shouldn't, because it will knowing the government, it'll probably be a massive fucking waste of time. So let me know what you think. Should I complain to the council or not? If the answer is yes, I'll go all in and we'll get these fucking lights changed, or I'll die trying. But if the answer is no, I might do a loo review instead. I might actually put out some fucking content. Speaking of loo reviews, I'm hoping to get one out in the next couple of days this week. I've got a topic that I'm pretty excited about, so I'm going to do that. And my new series will hopefully be starting the week after that. I'm all ready to go. The only thing that could stop the new series from happening is if the graphics guy doesn't finish his job on time. And he's usually pretty good, so I'm feeling very, very confident that the new series will start in 2 weeks. And holy shit, I'm very, very excited about it. Once I have all the graphics packs in and I've finished filming it and I know exactly when it's going to drop, I'll give you guys more information. But until then, it's got to remain a secret because otherwise you guys are going to get bored of me talking about it because it's like, yeah, we already know what it's about. Now it's time for some more anti-government fucking rambling, okay? Not only has the government ruined my life by adding 25 seconds and a near-death experience to my cafe trips, right? But they also tried to find me recently, and it was a battle to get out of it because they told me, right? You know how we have, in Australia, we have our elections. Our elections were a while ago. And how it works is you vote not only for your Prime Minister, but you also have to vote for the leader of your local government. And for whatever fucking reason, you can't do it in the same place. At least where I voted anyway, right? You vote for the Prime Minister in one fucking spot, and then you vote for the local government in another fucking spot. And it's mandatory, so if you don't vote, you get fined. Mandatory voting, I think, I'm in two minds about it. Some days I think it's the best idea ever because it forces everybody to have a say, and you can't be unhappy with the decision because everybody in the fucking country did vote. Or at least everybody who didn't want to get fined. Because when you see shit like in America, I feel like the reason why their politics is so fucked is because everyone cares, and then it comes to the moment where they have to actually leave their house and line up in a fucking queue for 3 hours while everyone throws pamphlets at them, people go, you know what, I don't really care if our president is a dictator. I reckon I'm going to stay home and play video games. And then they get pissed off. I reckon that's a big problem why America's politics are so fucked. But then other days I'm like, yeah, but that means that there are a million people like me who vote, who have no idea what they're voting for. I got no fucking idea, right? Or I feel like that I shouldn't vote because I feel like I don't know enough. And I know for certain that I know more than most people. So there's going to be at least, I don't know, at least 25% of the population know less about politics than I do, but they still vote anyway. And that just makes me go, why should they have a say? Because I feel like that I don't know. Like a politician will release all of these fucking ideas. We're going to fund this. We're going to defund that. We think this is a good idea. What do you reckon? You should vote for me. And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I got no idea, bro. Do what you're the one who studied your whole life for this. I just heard snippets of your ideas on fucking ABC News. I heard like 30 seconds of your 4-year plan, and now I'm supposed to decide the fate of the country? Dude, even if I read your entire report and I studied it for a week, I still wouldn't know what you're talking about because I don't know politics at all. But anyway, right? So you got to vote separately. So I went and I voted for the fucking Prime Minister, whatever. But anyway, like a month after that, I get a letter in the mail that says, hey, you didn't vote for your local government representative, so we're going to fine you $80. And I went like, hell you are, you fucking dogs. You are not fining me. So I went straight back to them and I said, I did vote, thank you very much, and I can prove it. Right? And then I started this massive process where they tried to prove that I didn't vote, and I was telling them that I did vote. Right? So I sent them evidence. I said, look, here's the form that you sent me. I filled it out and I put it into the post, and I know you got it, so you must have lost it. And I sent them all this evidence, and it was back and forth, and like, we never got your letter, so we're going to fine you. And I said, excuse me, I sent it on this date. So you would have received it on that date, and therefore, you lost my fucking note. I'm not paying the fine. Absolutely bullshit. And then they wanted me to call them. So I was like, oh, I'm fucking doing this. Alright, I'm down for a fight. I don't lose anything. If this is some kind of argument, I will never lose. I'll lose a fight, 100%. If you want to punch me in the face, I'll lose. No worries. But if you want to come to me with a petty argument that doesn't matter, where the consequence is absolutely nothing other than one of us being right, I will spend my whole fucking life, dedicate every moment, every second to make sure that I'm correct and you are not. You've got no chance, alright? I went up against the government, so I called them and I had about a 2-hour phone call where they were trying to prove that I had not voted and I was trying to prove that I had voted, and at the end of the day, they ended up hanging up the call and they said, look, Mr. Spears, alright, I don't think you're being very helpful with us. Because basically all they were saying was, we don't have any evidence of you voting, and I was saying, well, I want you to prove that I didn't vote. How about that? How about you show me proof that I did not vote, prove to me that you have not lost my ballot paper, and then I'll pay the fine. And they couldn't. But they wouldn't give it to me. So I was on the phone for like 2 hours, and I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm right. And then they ended up, it was a bit of a stalemate. I'll be honest, a bit of a stalemate, nobody won. Then they sent me another form, because this debate had been going on for so long, that they upped the fine. They're like, well, now you owe us $200. And I was like, well, fucking see about that, you dogs. So I called them back, and I had another 2-hour phone call. This time I was more prepared. I was like, I didn't vote. I did vote, and I can prove it. And I showed them all these forms. I showed them the opened letter. Right? I showed them the opened envelope, not the form, because I'm like, here's the envelope you sent me. I opened it, and then I sent you another envelope with my response, with my vote in it. And then they were like, right, well, clearly no one would go to this much effort for a fucking lie, we must have lost your vote. And I was like, yes! Hung up the phone, and I marked score 1 for Lewis, score 1 for the government, because they fucked me on the traffic lights, right? And I celebrated my victory, and I didn't have to pay my fine. And the best part of it was, I actually didn't vote. But just because you're wrong doesn't mean you have to get punished for it, okay? That's the moral of this story. That's what I'm really trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, is just because you actually did fuck up and you did break the law, all you gotta do is sound like you know what you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, the person that you're arguing with doesn't give a fuck because it's not their business. Any government employee, or fucking any kind of call center situation where you're arguing with the person on the phone, as long as you're not an asshole, but you're still really stubborn and you don't let them win, even if they have way more evidence than you, you're gonna come out on top, because at the end of the day, the person you're talking to doesn't give a fuck about the money because it's not theirs and they don't get any extra for bringing it in. Especially the government, because even the people in charge of the government, they're not spending their own money. You know what I mean? Like, even the fucking Prime Minister, that's why they fly everywhere. I guarantee you, if the Prime Minister owned the country, like, if the Prime Minister was put at the head of a business that they started from scratch and all of the money they were spending was theirs, they wouldn't fly that much. They would stay in fucking Airbnbs instead of 5-star locations. But because they don't own it, they just spend money like it's nothing. And it's the same thing when you're talking to a call center employee, because they don't give a fuck about the place where they work. They just care about their $20 an hour. So as long as you're polite, you can stand in the face of reason and be an absolute idiot, but a stubborn, polite idiot, and you're going to come out on top as the winner. And that's the moral of this podcast, is never give up, especially when you're wrong. Oh man, did you see, speaking of being wrong and not giving a fuck, did you see the Donald Trump pulling out of the Paris climate deal thing? AKA fucking straight up, the president, the leader of the free world is a climate change denier. That's the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. It's hilarious that someone that dumb can get elected. And don't get me wrong, I'm still behind him. I'm still rooting for him. I still think that he's the best leader that America had the opportunity to elect. But let's not fucking mince words. He's also an idiot, right? George Bush was a fucking moron, but he seemed to do an okay job. Alright, so Trump he pulls out of the Paris climate deal, which I think is just the funniest shit ever. That he's just come in and his main goal is to his priority seems to just to dismantle every single thing that Obama has done. He's like, oh, you signed up for this fucking 5 years ago? Ha, too bad, mate. I've ruined it in a day. Oh, Obamacare? What's that? That was going to be your legacy? And it had your name on it? Well, too bad, I'm getting rid of that. And I don't know if Obamacare was a good thing or a bad thing, but I do know he shouldn't have called it Obamacare because, of course, that's the first thing the person from the fucking red team is going to do, is destroy the thing that has your name on it. Like, that was a dumb move. He should have called it fucking, I don't know, safety care or something boring like that. Anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Paris fucking climate change shit and Trump being a climate change denier. And I looked into this, right? I looked into the whole climate change agreement argument because I wanted to have a laugh, right? I was like, okay, clearly vast majority of all scientists, all climate scientists agree that global warming is real, right? It's almost a fact. It's about as close to a fact as anything can be with science, because of course everything can be disproven, right? The world was flat. That used to be a fact and then they proved it wrong. That's what I mean when I say a fact. So I looked into the climate change argument like the other side, saying the people saying that it's not real. I looked into the science of it. I tried to find some unbiased stuff, just the pure science, because I've read up a whole bunch of shit on the pro-climate change thing, like climate change is real. I've read that, and I agree with that, but I realized that I had never read the other side of it. So I decided to read the science behind people who think global warming is not real. And I read like 5 different articles. I read as much as I could before my brain started to melt. And you know what? It sounds just as true to me, because I'm not a scientist. I read it, and I went into that going, you know what? The anti-climate change argument will be really funny. But I read the science to it, and it sounds just as true. It sounds exactly the same as the other side of the argument. They use all this fucking evidence that proves that they're right, and then you read it and you go, oh, well, they're right. Dude, I read like 5 different articles, and I left it going, well, climate change isn't real. But then I went and I read some other pro-climate change stuff, and I was like, well, climate change is real. Like, it doesn't fucking matter what you're trying to prove. The point is, you're not a scientist. Right? The average person has no idea what they're fucking talking about. Anything they read that says it's true and has evidence for it is true. All that matters is whatever you hear first. That's what I reckon. Like, the only reason why I believe in climate change is because I read that argument first. If I read the fucking climate change as a hoax thing first, I would be on that side of the fence. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a fucking weather scientist. I can't actually know which one is true. And I'm not saying that climate change is a hoax. I'm saying to the average layman fucking person, I can understand why people think it's fake, because people are not fucking scientists, and it sounds so true. Like, every side of every argument now with the internet, you can just type into www.fuckingprovethatimagenius.com, and it'll come back with 50 different articles being like, this is why you're right, and this is why the other people are wrong. And I feel like the only way to actually know the truth of things now is to actually be an expert in shit yourself. But even then, there are that many fucking experts out there that say they're experts on stuff. How do you know who's telling the truth? It's impossible. So I feel like Donald Trump has pulled out of a fucking massive Paris Agreement, and he could destroy the planet just because he read the other side of the fence first. And then it got me thinking that kind of shit. Like, does that make me an idiot, or am I just honest? Because honestly, I could not pick the truth in the situation. Both of them made sense. The science from both sides makes absolute perfect sense. If you go into it with an unbiased mind, like if you go into the climate change as a hoax thing with an open mind, being like, alright, I want to learn about this, you're going to leave it being like, oh, well, that's true. And then you'll go into the climate change as real argument, and you'll leave that one being like, well, fuck, that's true as well. Does that make me a fucking idiot, or am I just honest? Because I swear to God, there's that many... It's like the anti-vaccine argument. It's like, you're not a doctor, mate. How do you know that it causes autism? Or even then, how do I know that it doesn't? No one actually fucking knows, because everyone's right now with the internet. We have the most information we've ever had access to in the world, and the only thing that it's proven is not a single person knows what the fuck they're talking about. Oh, man. Anyway, what else did I want to talk about today? I got a new desk, guys. I got a fucking... Dude, it's the best shit out. It's the best shit I've ever bought. I got a really nice desk. It's one of those standing desks, so you can stand up. Right now, when I'm doing this podcast, I am standing up, and it's the best shit ever. And the microphone is on my desk. It's right underneath my face. And I can do the podcast standing up, which is how I've always wanted to do it. But I've had this awful fucking sitting desk. And because I'm so long, like I'm so tall that it's almost a disability, man. I just don't fit into anything. And now that I've got this desk that goes as high as I want it, it's the best shit ever. You got to get a standing desk, guys. If you're tall, or I don't know, I feel like it's a good idea for everybody. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Although, you do need to be really careful with it, because I lowered it too far and I crushed one of my fucking phone chargers. Can someone invent a phone charger that doesn't break, please? Like anybody. Why don't people do that? Surely that would make you a millionaire. Like, why has nobody done that? Every time I break a phone charger, I spend $10 more on the next one, and eventually I'm going to be buying fucking a charger that's made out of whatever Wolverine's bones are. Adamantium. Or whatever the fuck. It'll have a healing factor. Like, that's the point that I'm getting to. The one that I just broke, because I lowered my table onto it and it snapped, was a fabric one. I bought one of those fancy fucking 3-meter long fabric cables. It cost me like $40. And it's still broken. I was like, fuck, well, what next? I'm upgrading, right? So now I've got, this one cost me 50, I don't know, $10 more than what I just said. I'm a fucking goldfish. Whatever I just said, add $10 onto it. I've got a metal one now. Listen to this. Can you hear that? It's fucking metal. And if this breaks, I don't know what I'm going to go to. I'm going to have to go to, like, what's stronger than metal? I don't know. A liquid phone charger. You can't break liquid, can you? I mean, I feel like that might break your phone. Whatever. What am I, a scientist? I just clearly proved that I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to science. Like, I just believe climate change is a hoax, but also real at the same time. I don't know what's stronger than metal. But really, that does make sense. You can't break a liquid unless you freeze it. So as long as I didn't put my liquid phone charger in the freezer, I reckon I'd be sweet. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. This podcast is going off the rails here. I'm all over the place today. But, you know, what else do you expect when you listen to fucking Spearhead Sundays? It's this every week. I don't know why I apologize for it. This is the podcast. If you don't like this, it's listen to something else. Go listen to Hamish and Andy. They've got a much more professional podcast than me. I just turn on the microphone and I yell, and every now and then, I'm kind of funny. Like, I kind of aim for one laugh every 10 minutes. I think that's a pretty good ratio. If you're on the train, and you listen to me yelling about how climate change isn't fucking real, and I got a little nose laugh out of you, good on you, buddy. Fucking enjoy your train ride and punch your boss in the face for me. Or at least think about it, because I know that's a really good way to not quit your job, is just think about your boss when they come up to you and be like, hey, we've got a really strict uniform policy here. I know that even though it's a call center, we do expect you to wear a shirt, and you're going to have to tuck your shirt in. Just imagine balling up your fist and just putting it right through their fucking glasses. You know, I got told that when I had a job, when I was in a call center. We had a business casual uniform policy. And business casual basically means women can wear whatever the fuck they want, and men have to be locked up in shirts and fucking slacks that hurt their nutsack. I swear to God, business casual means for men, you got to tuck your shirt in. You don't have to wear a tie, but you have to wear fucking dress pants and shoes. And for women, it means nothing. The only rule is don't show too much titty. That's the only rule. Like, I remember when I went for the job interview, and they were explaining the dress policy. They're like, it's business casual, guys. So, you know, you guys know what that means, obviously. And then one girl, it was her first job. And she's like, I don't really know what business casual is. What's business casual for women? Like, for men, I know it's like shirts and slacks, but what is it for women? And the female manager couldn't even fucking tell her. She was like, oh, it's like, you know, like a skirt but, you know, sometimes I wear a dress, but, also sometimes I wear a shirt and well, you know, just like, obviously, you know, don't show too much skin, and basically she said don't fucking show off your tits. That's business casual. Women can wear whatever the fuck they want, business casual. But anyway, that's not the point of this story. Point of the story is I worked in a call center. I was working for Village. I actually did a joke about this in one of my shows. Which one was it? The second show. They tried to cancel me. I did a joke about this, right? But if you haven't seen it, I got told, while I was working in a call center, where the customer does not see you, I had my shirt untucked. It was like a button-up shirt. And I was walking out, right? I was about to leave, and my manager comes up to me. She goes, Lewis, can I talk to you for a second? She pulls me away. She's like, I just wanted to let you know that your shirt's untucked. And I literally went, yeah? Why? So? And she disciplined me. She gave me an official warning because she thought I was being disrespectful, when in reality I was genuinely confused about why the fuck you would need to tuck your shirt in a call center where the customers can't see you. I could do that job naked from my home with a dick in my ass and the customer would have no idea as long as the other guy was quiet. Alright? But that's when... I think that was the first time I imagined, like, getting that dumb fucking necklace she wore and then wrapping it around her neck and just pulling it until she went blue. That was the first time. When was the second time? The second time was when I was wearing a jacket because it was really cold outside. So I went out to my lunch break and I came back and I was wearing the jacket and I wore it to the coat rack and then I took it off and then she came and warned me about wearing a jacket in the office. That was the second time where I fantasized about taking off her high heel and just fucking ramming it in her eye. And then the third time, when was the third time I fantasized about doing something horrible and descriptive? That's when you really hate someone, where it's like, I don't just want to punch you in the head, I want to do it in an unusual way so that it hurts you more and allows me to picture it in more detail because that feels good for me. Oh yeah, this is when I remember we had 10-minute breaks, right? And they worked it out because I was part-time, and how they figured out the rosters was they worked out a way to not pay you for lunch and they never let anybody work long enough so that they were legally required to have a lunch break, which you would have to pay for. So they always gave, I think you need to have a lunch break if you work more than 4 hours. So they would make everybody work 3 hours and 59 minutes. And then the only thing they were legally required to give us was one 10-minute break throughout the 4 hours so we could eat, right? It was like treating us like full-on robot shit. So I remember we had 10 minutes for a lunch break, which is perfect, right? It gives you enough time to press the log out button on your computer, hang up your headset, put on your jacket, walk outside, go to the food court, order your food, get your food, throw your food in the bin because you've run out of time and then you're late for fucking work. You can't even eat it, right? Perfect amount of time for any employee who doesn't want to feel like a robot. 10-minute break. Awesome. So I get back in, and that had happened to me, right? I ordered my food, I got my food. As soon as I received it, I realized, oh shit, I'm already late. I come back in with my food, I'm starving. I'm like, well, I just paid for it, I'm gonna fucking eat it. It's only sushi, it doesn't smell, it's not hot. I'm just gonna eat it quietly in between calls. I get back on my desk, and she makes me throw it in the bin. And that was the day that I decided, if she ever wants me about anything again, I'm going to pick up the keyboard and put it in her mouth, even though it doesn't fit, and then stomp it down into her, I don't know, into somewhere it shouldn't go. I think it was the next day that I stood up and I just left. And I never came back. I've never quit a job properly. I've just realized this now talking about this. I've never quit a job properly. I've had a lot of jobs because, let me tell you something, I'm a great liar. I'm a brilliant liar. I convinced the government that I voted when I didn't vote, and they had evidence that I didn't vote. And I can convince any hiring company that I'm a model employee, even though I'm probably the worst employee I've ever seen. Like, there were some bad employees at all the places that I've worked, but by far, I was the worst. But when you're working in call centers, you get at least 3 months before they fire you, even if you're terrible. Because no one there cares about their job, right? You get a month worth of training, and you don't have to do the job, so they don't figure out that you're bad at it. As long as you pass their fucking tests and you jump through the hoops they give you, you're fine. And then you have another month where you can be awful, but they're like, oh, he's just learning. And then the next month after that, you can be awful, and they will fire you on the last week. But really, you gotta be fucking really bad. I'm just realizing, I've never quit a job properly. Every single job I've ever had, I have left and just never come back. Like, one day I'm like, yep, I hate this. I've had enough. I'm leaving. And let me tell you something. It is the most satisfying way to quit in the world. In the fucking world. You just take agency of your life, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to be here, so I'm not going to be here. And you put yourself in break mode, and you stand up, and you walk out of the office, and your manager goes, "Oh, Lewis, you've got a customer on hold." And you're like, "I know, I'm just going to print something." And then you walk out the door, and you never come back. And you grab your coat, and the manager goes, "The printer's just down the hall." And you're like, "Yeah, I know. I just need to get something from my pocket so I can print. I left my printing pass in my pocket." And then they go, "Oh, okay." And then you pick up your coat and you put it on and you walk towards the printer. And then they look at you, go to the printer like, "Why has he got his coat on?" And then you make a sharp right for the door. And then you fucking walk out and you ruin their productivity for the next month while they try and replace you, but also call you to see if you had some mental breakdown. That's my favorite thing. Where they don't replace you for like a whole week because they're like, "Oh, maybe he just had a mental breakdown. If we replace him, we could get sued." My favorite thing whenever I quit like that was to just never answer their calls. Never, just read all of their texts, listen to all the voicemails, and be like, "Ha, the place is going to shit without me. That's funny." That is how I always quit. And I highly recommend it if you're listening to this and you hate your job. You don't need to quit properly. Just leave. Just see, that's when I realized that there are no rules. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You don't have to quit properly. You don't owe anybody anything, right? If you live in Australia and you're working in a shitty entry-level job, you can walk out that door and get another one within the month, and the only person it affects is everyone but you. And that's that's the only thing that matters. I recommend it, guys. If you're listening to this at work and you're like, "You know what? I don't like my job." Go and get your fucking lunchbox. I did this once. This is how much I hated one job that I had. I'm a cunt. I shouldn't even tell this story because it's going to make you think that I'm a bad person. But, you know what? We've already established that I'm a shit human. This was my favorite way I quit once. I was working in another call center. What was it for? It was for Coles online delivery, right? And I shouldn't tell the story. I'm going to do it anyway, right? So I decided I had enough, and it was about halfway through the day. I had been working there for 3 months, and I was like, "You know what? I'm just not coming back." But I also hate my manager because they're a cunt. So what I did was I went and I got my sandwich out. What did I have? I think it was like a ham and cheese sandwich. Something that doesn't smell if you eat it in a timely manner, and if you don't eat it, then it just turns into a bacteria bomb, right? So I think you know where I'm going with this. I get the sandwich, and it's lunchtime, and I move my personal locker, because you have a little locker that goes under your desk, and I moved it from under my desk to under an unused desk that no one had been using, and it was a broken desk, so no one would be using that for like a year until they got rid of it, right? And then I put my sandwich in the locker, and I closed the door, and I locked it with my key, and then I put my key in my pocket, and then I got my jacket, and I walked away. No one saw me move the locker, and I walked out, and I never came back. And I know for a fact that they didn't figure out what that fucking smell was for at least a month. An entire month I fucked up that place, and I didn't feel any guilt, even though I know that is just a cunt for no reason move. But that's just who I am. So if you don't like that story, go and listen to one of the Christian podcasts where they talk about how to make your life better for other people. Until then, you listen to Spearhead Sundays, and I teach you how to be an asshole and make life harder for everyone except for you. Alright, so. But I'm going to break that where I'm going to help out someone. It's time for miscellaneous bit of the end. Let me get up this week's question. I just got one today. If you want to send in a question, if you need some life advice, or yes, send it to podcast@lewspears.com if you need some life advice. Send some interesting shit. Try and summarize it in the title, in the subject of the email, so I don't have to read all of them before I find the good ones. But don't clickbait me either. A whole bunch of people have written ridiculous things and then in the subject line, and then their email is different. You might think that's funny, but I just delete your email. even if it's a good question, because it shits me. And I don't want to encourage that kind of behavior. So be honest what your email's about, and I'll get to it. Or let me know the most interesting way you've quit your job. What's the rudest... Or, you know what? Let's be even broader than that. What's the rudest thing you've ever done? Like, what's the rudest thing that you have ever done that you've just disobeyed the systems and the rules that society has set up? Like, good rules. Like, when I look at it, quitting properly is a good thing to do. Like, that just makes everybody's life easier. You're quitting, but you let your boss know so they can find a replacement in a timely manner before you leave, and then the boss's productivity doesn't get lowered very much, right? That's a great rule. That should happen. But I just leave and I don't give a fuck about them. So what's something like that you have done where you've broken a rule that exists for a really good reason and it's fucked up somebody else's life, but it's really improved yours, or it hasn't affected you at all? Like rude behavior like that. Let me know. What have you done that's just blatantly rude? And also let me know if I should call the council. Alright, where's this question? Alrighty. I got this question from, and he says, the subject line is committing to my passion while dealing with year 12. Hey Lewis, I've been enjoying your shit for a while now, and it's been awesome seeing you get bigger and bigger each year. I can't wait until you blow up and sell the fuck out. Me too, mate. Let's get those sponsorship deals rolling. Hit me up, Apple. My name is... Pick a name other than mine. Ah, fuck. Well, now I need to go back and edit because I said his name. Ah, shit. Alright, your name's going to be Tom. Hang on, I got to pause this and edit out his name. Fuck. Alright, I took his name out. Sorry, you probably... That would sound incredibly weird. And you know what? If I was using GarageBand, I would just be able to change his name and edit in a fake one, but with... I don't know how to use this program, so it probably would have just skipped and sounded awful for you. But, you know, the whole podcast is awful, so get over it. Alright, so, where are we? Alright, Tom. My name is Tom, and I'm currently in year 12. I'm doing fairly well at school, and I'm getting decent marks, although I'm often finding myself disinterested with a lot of the work I'm doing, and I'm often handing in assignments late. I've had to be spoken to by a teacher to be put on a plan to ensure I'm getting work in on time. Oh, isn't that the fucking system that's setting you up to be on a plan to pay off your debt? At the moment, the only thing that's giving me any sort of drive to do schoolwork is that I won't have to listen to my teachers saying that I'm wasting potential, or my parents saying they're wasting money sending me to a private school. See, that's fucking bullshit. See, the whole wasted potential talk, I think it's just stupid, because the only... Like, it totally implies that if you don't do well in school, you're not going to do well anywhere else. Like, I failed school, but I'm doing very well in comedy for the amount of time that I've been doing it. Like, I'm not a fucking A-list, but I've only been doing it for a bit over 3 years, and I've toured 3 times, and I failed high school. Like, I full-on failed high school. I've tried doing university, but I dropped out of all of my courses. And I had the whole, you've got so much potential, like you're wasting your potential, and it's just not true. I'm just not. I just was not good at school. Like, the potential that I had was never with school. I never had potential to do well in school. I had potential to do well in other areas, and people could see, oh fuck, he's a smart kid. He should be able to do well in school, when that was just wrong. I can't do well in school. I've tried it. I can't excel in that fucking system. And while I did have potential, to say that I was wasting my potential in school was just wrong, because I had no potential there. I tried. I was fucking shit at it. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I got the wasted potential talk all the time as well. At times, I'm often feeling depressed because I feel as though when I'm at school, I'm working towards a goal I'm only trying to achieve because of the stigma of getting bad marks and to make my parents proud. Yeah, I went through that shit as well. What I'm really passionate about is writing, and my hope is to be writing novels or screenplays as a profession. I've just started writing a novel, and it's really making a difference in my overall happiness. However, I'm so stacked up with schoolwork and assignments, I know it's going to be impossible to commit myself 100% to my writing and still achieve good marks. I know that if I told my parents I wanted to become a writer, they would probably laugh and tell me to get a degree first. I wanted to know, considering your experience with knowing you wanted to do comedy during high school, how should I manage doing something that makes me happy while also worrying about my schoolwork? Should I forget about writing for the time being and just focus on school? Hopefully you can give me some insight into how I can deal with my situation. I'm running out of ideas and I'm starting to think the only option is to subject myself to miscellaneous bit at the end to end it all. Cheers, cunt. Hope to see you on my next two. I have a shit one. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate the kind words. I hope you made it through that bit so I can give you my perspective. Look, I'm going to tell you the responsible thing, and then I'm going to tell you my opinion, which is irresponsible, but it worked for me. Responsible opinion would be to try really hard in school so that you have the option to get a degree if you want. Alright, that's the responsible thing. That's what you should do by fucking the world standards. And that definitely is an option for you. Now, here's what I think, which is the irresponsible route, which probably won't work, but that's what every successful creative person has to jump over the hurdle that it probably won't work, statistically speaking, right? Because for most people, dreams don't work out. And that is a scary thing. And that's something that I had to go through as well. I'm like, fuck, what if it doesn't work? It probably won't work. Fuck school. Fuck school off and focus on writing. Because think about it, man. Do you need a degree to write a book? No, you don't. You don't need to be anywhere to write a fucking book. You can literally publish a book onto Amazon and get it on people's Kindles now. You don't even need a publisher. Obviously, a publisher would be great, but to start, you don't even need a fucking publisher. Like, I've looked into publishing books because it's something that I would like to do one day. I'm not working on it now, but I've looked into it. You can just fucking upload the file and people can buy your book. And with the internet nowadays, man, you can write about whatever the fuck you want to write about and you can find an audience for it. You can find an audience for anything. I saw, when I was doing research for my Patreon, I saw a guy that writes fantasy wizard stories, and he's making like $30,000 a month on Patreon, and he's not even writing about sex. He's not even getting the characters to fuck each other with spells. He's just a good writer, and he's found his audience with social media. I'm not going to pretend that I know how to get a book published or that I know that industry at all, because I don't. But what I do know is if you want to pursue a creative passion where you want to make stuff, you don't need a fucking degree to do it. You just don't. Like, it's always good to learn, and it's always good to know how to do things and to know, like, the technical methods. Like, when I'm editing a video, obviously I want to know technically how editing works and what the best practices are. But aside from that, I don't need a fucking 4-year university degree that will stop me from creating because I have this massive block in my head going, oh, maybe I should start when I have the degree. Because at the end of the day, man, you're not going to get a job as a writer. No one employs a fucking author. An author writes a book and gets it published. Do you know what I mean? Like, unless you are an established person already, like Stephen King or something, you're not going to get paid to write ever. You know, magazines don't really pay authors to write cool short stories. I mean, there are some, like, you could maybe get a job with video game companies writing background lore or, you know, tabletop games that write their own books and shit like that, but really, that's probably not a very fulfilling job. The only way to really get ahead as a writer is to write. So go out there and fucking write, man. And that's something that I did struggle with because I started doing comedy in high school. I started actually making comedy because I always knew that I wanted to do it like you, but I always thought that I would get it. I wanted to do a degree in media. Like, I started media studies class in high school. And when I did media studies and they started teaching us the rules on how to film stuff and how to write scripts and how to do this and how to do that, I quickly realized they weren't teaching me how to create the type of comedy, the very specific type of comedy that I wanted to create. You know, like they weren't teaching me, this is how you cause an outrage and then turn that outrage into promotion for you. And this is how you fuck with the media and get them to write stories about you that are not true. This is how you dismantle someone else's piece of work and criticize it in a funny way. You know, they weren't teaching me that. They were just teaching the technical side of things. Like, this is how you use a camera. And I was like, well, I can learn how to use a camera on the fly. What I want to make is comedy. Do you see the difference? Where I feel like a lot of creative university courses, they teach you the technical how-tos, and at the end of the day, you're going to walk out of that 4-year university course and you're going to know everything about how to write a script. You're going to know everything about how to film, what angles to use, how to light the shot, but you're going to have absolutely no idea how to actually create something and put it out there because you haven't been taught that. You've just been taught how to use the tools that make a creation, not actually how to create, which is something very, very different. So if you really want to be a writer, man, I would go out there and I would do a lot of fucking research online about self-publishing, about how to get ahead, how to attract an audience to reading. Because, dude, there are so many fucking writers on Tumblr, you know, that they'll write fucking fan fiction and then they'll use that platform to write their own book, you know? I've been writing fan fiction about Adventure Time for so long, now I'm going to write my own fucking cartoon. Or you look at people who have just been writing short stories every day on Reddit in their own little subreddit, and then that's attracted an audience somehow, and then they've used that to launch a fucking book, you know? I mean, this is something that I couldn't really give advice on how to attract an audience to your writing because I've never looked into it, but I know that the information would be out there. So what I would do is I would start doing research, and this is the irresponsible advice. I would say fuck school. If you know without a doubt in your mind that you want to be a writer, go out there and fucking write and figure out a way to get people to see your writing. You know? That's what I would do, man. And I want you to know that that's a very irresponsible way at looking things from the eyes of other people. And everyone will tell you, oh, you should get a degree, you should get a job, but because you can do that whenever you want, man. You know, even if you fail high school, you can basically get into any university degree you want to get into when you're a mature age student. If you fail high school, that only really locks you out of joining prestige fucking university courses for like 2 years. And then all of a sudden there's all these bridging courses that you can do to become even a doctor if you want to become one. Like, it doesn't mean shit, high school, unless what you really want is, like, unless your passion is to become a doctor, then obviously you have to do university. You're an idiot if you don't do it, because you can't become a doctor without it. But you don't need any kind of education to become a writer. You just need to write. So fucking write. That's what I would do. Do a lot of research on how to self-publish, how to attract an audience, and go out there and fucking write, man. I believe in you. Chase that fucking dream. Write some stories. All right? And that's the end of the podcast, guys. If you would like to send in some questions, podcast@losespears.com, or let me know when you've been an asshole. And if you would like to support the podcast on Patreon, because every episode I upload makes it more expensive for me to host, and the only way to do that only way to lower the cost is to delete old episodes, and I'm not going to do that. So if you would like to help me pay for the cost of the hosting the podcast, and you'd like early access to all of my shit, support me on Patreon. Google Lewis Spears Patreon. You can give me like fucking $6 a month, and there's a Facebook group that I'm always in. And yeah, that's the end. Thank you very much for listening, and have a very shit one.